Hey guys, Matt here, and I was challenged recently to try and build a bag with only MVP brands discs. So that's MVP, Axiom, and Streamline. Didn't opt to include all the ones they make for other people like Mint or TSA, but put together a pretty fun bag. Let me show you real quick what I'm working with. So for putters, I've got 3 Electron Atoms, the 2015 Circuit one, a firm one with the Reptilian eye stamp, and then a regular Run Soft. Be putting with those guys, maybe some approaches as well. For my main throwing putter and approach disc, I've got an Electron Soft Envy. Pretty recent run, feels very good. Haven't thrown that one much. For my mid ranges, I have Vision Hex, Proton Matrix, Prism Plasma Pyro, and a Proton Deflector. For my fairways, I've got the R2 Eclipse Crave, a Neutron Terra, kind of hoping that'll be like my beefy fairway slot. I've got this L2 Relay Dummy Proton Flare and 2 regular Cosmic Neutron Flares. One beat in, one really fresh. I'm bringing in a disc probably not a lot of you guys have seen much, a couple of phases. One of those is Trail. I got a Trail, and then a couple of phases. I like these for like high 3 to low 400-foot forehand shots. They're really overstable, fly nice. We'll have one of these L2 time lapses, one of the beefy ones. This really pretty dyed Mayhem. Thinking that'll be my backhand distance driver. And Energy and a Panic. I think one of those two will be my max distance forehand driver. Gonna take him out to Etowah and let's see how we do. So out at Etowah, hole 1, going with a deflector on a forehand. I was thinking this guy would be really, really overstable, and it's pretty stable, but it turns over more than I thought, so I'm just short of pin high, but pretty far left. Rung it up on the backside, it just falls out, so I'll tap in for a par there. Hole 2, try and deflector again. Just a nice gentle forehand through that right side gap. Ends up on the hill on the right side, but rolls down, and we have tap in birdie for our first birdie of the round. I'll go ahead and just tap in with the deflector since it's a short one. Hole 3 will be the first test. I'm trying Panic here. It's a long hole at 575. I get the Panic to turn over just a little bit. It goes about 400, so I've got about 175 to go here. Try going deflector again, and it performs the line admirably, about 20 feet right of the basket, but exactly pin high. And going to the Atom for the first real putt, and knock that one on in. And we are 2 down through 3. On the famous cave hole here, I'm trying Hex. That's a Fission Hex, but still a heavy one at about 172. It's up there in the cave, so we'll just pick it up and tap it in right behind the basket there. And hole 5 is one of the harder ones. I'm trying this Eclipse R2 Crave. Hits that tight tunnel gap really nicely, but doesn't fade quite as much. So I've got a little bit of a putt that I unfortunately left a little bit short. So I'll settle for a par on that one. Hole 6 going Flare, about 70% there. And it has kind of a weird bounce. It kind of just bounces straight up in the air instead of going towards the basket. So I've got like a 35-footer and give it a pretty good bid, but it just hits about 2 inches lower than I need it to, so I'll tap in for another par there. Hole 7 going back to the Crave for this little S-curve line, and it holds it admirably, keeps the turnover, just misses the basket on the right, and I've got the comebacker putt here for birdie, and knock that one in no problem. So hole 8, we're going way uphill. It's not that long though, it's about 240, so I'm going Matrix. It holds a little bit straighter than I thought it would, but I've got about a 25-foot putt. It's a scary putt. If you miss it, it'll go all the way back down that hill, but I was able to make that one and felt pretty good about it. Hole 9's across this ravine. I usually throw forehand, but I'm going backhand with an Envy here. And it holds, and I'm on just inside the circle on the left side. Got my putt. Pretty decent at this point. That's not an Atom I'd thrown before, but I'm liking it so far. Going back to the Crave on hole 10, pures that gap perfectly. the last tree it needed to cut left in front of before the basket it knocked, so I'm at about 40 feet and just barely missed that one, but I'll settle for the par there. Going back to Deflector on hole 11, it's way downhill with a small green. Kicks that tree. I pitched up with the Envy, but wasn't able to film it on that hill and tap in for the par. Going to the Mayhem here on 12. It's really not long enough to need it, but turns out that Mayhem's a lot more stable than I thought it would be. It doesn't flip up at all from that hyzer, and I'm in kind of an awkward spot in circle 2. Trying to go with Envy around that tree, but it kicks it and rolls back out in the roads. I've got a little bit of a tricky putt to save my par here. And just miss right, and we'll have to have my first bogey on the card on that kind of embarrassing hole there. 13, I throw the Deflector again, and it's perfect, but it hits that tree right behind the basket and rolls way left. So I got about a 45-foot putt here. Gave it a good run, but kind of babied it since there's a lot of mess behind it. A little photo bomb from Weston Barfield there as I tap in. Hole 14, going with the forehand with a flare. Rolls up right by the basket. Easy tap in birdie on that one. 15, going Mayhem again, and I think I understand it a little better now. But I plugged that stop sign coming back in over the out of bounds and just barely gets in bounds there. So I'll just pitch up across and tap in for the par. Going with the Proton Flare here, it's really domey and not as overstable as my other flares. But I've got about a 40-foot putt. It didn't go quite as far as I thought I could get it. Got a lot of chains on the left side, but it doesn't stick, so that'll be another par. 17, going back to the Mayhem because I'm determined to figure this disc out. And I think I finally did, and I pushed it a pretty good bit long of the basket here. And should have made this putt all day, but left it just a little bit high. So I'll tap in for a par there. I feel like that's a little bit of a broken record phrase at this point, but it's not been a bad round. Trying the time lapse on this kind of soft par 4 here, and it's a beautiful line. Clips that branch right there and cuts me down about 50 feet shorter than it would have been. So I've got a 70, 80-foot throw-in attempt, but didn't make much of an attempt, so I'm just behind the basket for a tap-in birdie on that one. 19, going flare again. Nice skippy forehand right up to the basket. I've got about a 20-ish foot putt left, and we'll make that one with no drama. So feeling good about that one. Most of my flare shots have been good. So 20, I usually go stego, but we're going Envy on the backhand. Just misses that Bowie right in front, but sets down not far from the pin, and we'll tap in holding the camera. So I'll just run these back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to throw everything. That course has not a huge need for distance drivers, so I didn't get to try all of those. I did throw the Panic on hole 3. Goes really far, really nice, very controllable, and I really don't see why more of the MVP pros don't throw this one. For a nice, overstable, somewhat glidey disc, it did really well. Didn't end up throwing the Energy. I did throw the Mayhem. This was actually a little bit more stable than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit flippy. Out of the box, it's not. I don't think it's been thrown much. I didn't die this, but I don't think it's very understable, actually. But when I pushed it flat on 17, it actually went decently past the basket, and that's about 355, 360. So it can go pretty far. I just need to learn how to throw it. Only did the time lapse once on 18. If I hadn't clipped that branch, I would have had an eagle look, so can't complain about that. Didn't end up getting to throw my phases or the trail. Looking back on it, I kind of forgot I had the trail. I should have thrown that on hole 12. That would have been a great spot for that. The flares, I bagged flares. They're awesome. Did exactly what I wanted to. Got me several birdies. I need to work with this one a little bit more. I only threw it on 16, and I should have got a birdie there, but it's more overstable than I thought, so I didn't draw hard enough. Did not end up throwing the Terra. I thought I would, but I kind of ended up falling in love with the R2 Envy and threw it a bunch. It got me some birdies, got me some birdie looks, and I probably could have thrown it on like half the shots, honestly. It did really, really well. And honestly, probably could have thrown the Deflector on about the other half of the shots. You know, the first half of the course kind of looked like the Deflector show, and it was really good. It's not crazy, crazy beefy like some Deflectors I've had, but this one feels really good and flew very admirably for the upshot on 3, the on hole 2, and I probably could have used it a couple other places as well. If I hadn't clipped that tree on 11, it would have parked it also. Did not end up throwing the pyro. I did use the Matrix to get a birdie on hole 8. Didn't use it a ton, but when I did, it was really good. Though I don't think it's different enough from the Hex. I actually like the Matrix a tiny bit better, but this one got me that birdie on 4. So when you get the birdie on the iconic cave hole, it's not a bad day. Envies, I throw envies. Envies are great. If you're not throwing an envy, what are you doing? Give one a shot. Loved it. Did well. And can't say enough good things about that disc. And then I also happened to putt with the Adams, so that was not much of a leap either. I missed a couple, but kind of just putted like normal. Felt pretty good for a cold day out there. So thank you guys so much for watching. It was fun trying an all MVP bag and throwing a lot of discs. I don't throw that much. Appreciate you tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.